Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. I am your host, Richard Holdridge. This is presented by Georgia-Alabama Sports Live. It's Friday, week 4 in high school football. It is time for my high school football preview review show. Just a reminder that you are listening to us on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, out of Noonan, Georgia, and we have got an absolute amazing show for you. I'm going to get into my high school football preview review show. We do have some sports to cover that happened last night, and including the Atlanta Braves snapping a 3-game losing streak, the Detroit Lions taking down the Super Bowl champs, and West Georgia is exploring the possibility of moving to NCAA Division I. That broke late last night. I will get into the Wolves' transition into NCAA Division I. That is going to be fascinating for the Carrollton area and everybody out there. I mean, what can you say? NCAA Division I, great. I caught that on my news feed this morning, and I wanted to make sure to give the West Georgia Wolves some love. This is episode 703, just in case you are keeping score at home. And I want to let you know, because this is part of Georgia-Alabama Sports Live, Thrift Behringer and I have been doing 2 scoreboard shows twice a week. We do one on Sunday nights, and we are doing one on Tuesday nights as well. And so because of all the content that we are putting out for Georgia-Alabama Sports Live, I've decided to put my podcast under the blanket of Georgia-Alabama Sports Live so I can produce some of the content for this radio station. I'm not necessarily transitioning to Georgia-Alabama Sports Live. All I'm doing is the 5-day-a-week show that I'm doing on the radio station. I'm providing some of the content that Thrift Behringer and I have done, and it really provides for great radio for WQEE. 5 days a week. Yeah, I've been going strong. It is football season. There is a lot to get into. And as far as my guests, the weekly guests that I've been getting on, and you know who they are, if you want to come on the show, I have more than enough room to get you on. It's just that with this transition and calling games and everything, I know that our schedules sometimes don't intermingle, but I promise you, I want to try to get my guests on. I know that I haven't had my regular guests on the Sports Beat on for a while, but just message me. I'll try to get you on the show, and we will go from there, especially since it's football season. I know that a lot of you want to talk about football, and I'm more than welcome to get you on here and talk about football. All right, let's talk about the story that led the news here in the Chattahoochee Valley, in the West Georgia area. The West Georgia Wolves, yes, they are going to NCAA Division I. They are going to play football in the FCS in the Ohio Valley. That conference has Austin Peay, UT Martin. And then for basketball, they're going to be in the Atlantic Sun Conference. That conference has Lipscomb, Liberty, South Carolina Upstate. Kennesaw State is actually making the transition out of the Atlantic Sun Conference because they are going to be in Conference USA for 2024. I mean, I would have liked to see that rivalry between West Georgia and Kennesaw State. But West Georgia is going to be put on the map when it comes to being in the FCS. And who knows, they might even play Georgia or Georgia Tech in the near future. I mean, this is a huge move for the school, and I'm happy for the Wolves faithful. And I know that West Georgia is a big part of this radio station at WQEE because they did have a weekly show, and I don't know if they still air that. But West Georgia, their fan base, I'm really excited. I want to give them some love, making that transition to the FCS. Hey, the Atlanta Braves, they snap a 3-game losing streak. They defeated the Cardinals last night. Max Fried pitched to Jim and Ronald Acuna Jr. 2 more home runs. He's at 34. I want to see him get that 40-40 club. That's an exclusive club. Only 4 members in Major League Baseball history are a part of the 40-40 club. Jose Canseco did it all the way back in 1988. I remember I was a kid. That was a big deal. A player to hit for power and run the base paths. Willie Mays was one of the best to do it. but he never reached the 40-40 club. There was a lot of great five-tool players back in the golden age of baseball, like Henry Aaron and Willie Mays, but only 4 have ever done it. I believe Ronald Acuna Jr. is going to do it. And wishful thinking, I was hoping maybe one day, I don't know if it's going to be this year, I would have loved to have seen Ronald Acuna Jr. get the 50-50 club, as he is on pace to get 75 stolen bases. And that is amazing feat for the leading MVP candidate for the Atlanta Braves, which, by the way, 91-48, still have the best record in Major League Baseball. They shut down Mike Soroka for the rest of the season, but I still feel confident that this Braves team going into the playoffs is going to set their rotation up perfectly with Spencer Strider, Max Fried, Charlie Morton. You could throw in a Bryce Elder as a 4th starter, but those are going to be your 3 starters in the postseason. Raisel Iglesias, he gets the save last night. And the Braves, it's not time to panic. They had a 3-game losing streak. It happens. But they still have the best record in baseball. They're about to take on the Pittsburgh Pirates for a 3-game series coming up at Truist Park. And I just don't want people to forget about the Braves in September. I know we got college football going on, but the Braves are making a big postseason run, and they're still my favorite to win the World Series this year. That would be an amazing accomplishment. 2 World Series in the last 3 years. Alex Anthopoulos, the general manager, has got to get credit for all of it. I remember the moves that the Braves made in the early 2010s. They were not popular moves, trading away Jason Hayward, trading away Justin Upton, Evan Gaddis. Not very popular moves, but it worked out in the long run. All right, we did have NFL last night. The Thursday night football game, it was the Detroit Lions taking on the Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs were a little short-handed. They were without Travis Kelce, their all-pro tight end, and they were without one of their best defensive players, probably the most clutch defensive player in the NFL today, Chris Jones. He's still holding out on that contract. And it shows with the Lions winning 21-20. I know people are calling it an upset, and the Detroit Lions have a lot of confidence knocking out the Super Bowl champs. In fact, the NBC broadcaster Mike Tirico says that this win should have an asterisk by it. Look, a win is a win regardless of who is playing in the game. Yes, the Chiefs were down 2 superstars, but Patrick Mahomes, I guess that Patrick Mahomes was going to still be Superman, put on the cape, and make his receivers amazing. But Kadarius Toney was not doing him any favors. He was dropping balls. When the Chiefs had the ball back down 21-20, I automatically assumed that Patrick Mahomes was going to march them down and the Chiefs were going to win this game because this is what they do. But Patrick Mahomes was showing that he is human. Aiden Hutchinson with a lot of pressures. Patrick Mahomes was rushed. He threw a pick 6 to the rookie Brian Branch, and the Detroit Lions get the victory on the road. And I hope that Travis Kelce does come back for the Chiefs and that Chris Jones finally gets a deal done, because the Chiefs don't want to go 0-2. Next week, they travel to Jacksonville to take on Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. NFL Week 1, it is this week. It is going to be exciting. The Atlanta Falcons taking on the Carolina Panthers. And we also have games, really big games, like the Patriots taking on the Eagles. You got the Sunday night game, the Cowboys and the Giants. The Monday night game is Buffalo and the New York Jets. And then college football. I got 5 teams that are ranked, that are on upset alert. So you don't want to miss that. So last night in college football, we did have one Thursday night game. The Louisville Cardinal, they go to 2-0. Cardinal? No, I said the Louisville Cardinals, not to be confused with the Stanford Cardinal. They beat Murray State, the Racers, 56-0. And how about the former Troup County Tiger, Jamari Thrash? The wide receiver has been at Georgia State since 2019. He entered the transfer portal this year to play at Louisville. 3 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown. He has had 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games. Jamari Thrash really making an impact for the Louisville Cardinals this year, and they are 2-0. And so we have college football week 2, the big matchup, the game that everybody's going to be watching. Texas, number 11 in the country, taking on the Alabama Crimson Tide, who's number 4 in the country. My big question is, if Alabama blows Texas out, are they the new number 1 when the AP poll comes out next week? You also have Georgia taking on Ball State. It's a noon kickoff. Auburn traveling all the way to Berkeley to take on Cal at 10 o'clock at night. Wow, that is going to be a very late kickoff for Auburn fans. I know I probably won't be up to watch that, but the Hugh Freeze era in Auburn off to a great start as they beat UMass last week, and they're trying to go 2-0. And then here are my 5 teams that are on upset alert, starting with number 5. I'm going to go from 5 to 1. Nebraska traveling to Boulder to take on the 22 ranked Colorado Buffaloes, ranked 22nd in the new poll. And I'm putting Colorado on upset alert. I know that they just got into the polls. They upset TCU last week, 37-34. But Nebraska, who let one slip away against Minnesota, Nebraska should be coming out and firing on all cylinders. This is an old rivalry game, and I know that the Colorado fans and the bandwagon fans who are huge fans of Coach Prime want to see Colorado get the win and go 2-0. That would be an amazing story. But Colorado might come back to earth. I don't know if Shadir Sanders is going to throw for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. I just don't know if Travis Hunter is going to play 85% of the snaps on offense and defense. So this could be a down-to-earth game for Colorado. They're at number 5. Number 4, the Wisconsin Badgers, ranked 19th, going on the road to Pullman, Washington, to take on the Washington State Cougars. Another one of these rare Big Ten, Pac-12 matchups. And Luke Fickell's team, they could get put down to earth once again. I'm putting them on upset alert because anytime you're a ranked opponent and you go to a hostile environment like Wazoo and taking on an unranked Washington State Cougars team that might be underranked because, maybe they are good, but we don't know just yet. And then number 3, Texas A&M traveling to Coral Gables to take on the Miami Hurricanes. Mario Cristobal in his second year. Texas is ranked 23rd. Now, Miami played Texas A&M last year at College Station, and they lost. If the Miami Hurricanes want to be legit, I'm not saying if Miami wins this game, the U is back. But Alex Van Dyke, and they have the skill players. Miami has the tools and the resources to be a powerhouse in college football. But the line play has been a question mark. And can Mario Cristobal, who is a former offensive lineman for the Miami Hurricanes, can he get that line play to physically dominate the line against Texas A&M, who had the number 1 recruiting class 2 years ago? And Connor Wigan is just a great quarterback. I think that Texas A&M, with offensive coordinator Bobby Petrino, they should be able to move the football. They got great skill players. I think the Texas A&M wins, but I'm putting them on upset alert because this game is in Miami. Number 2, Utah taking on Baylor. They are ranked 12th. Baylor with a heartbreaking loss last week to Texas State. Utah, their defense just overpowered the Florida Gators at home. The status of Cameron Rising could factor in whether or not this is a real being put on upset alert, because the Baylor Bears, led by Dave Aranda, their head coach, they want to try to get this win at home. It's in Waco, Texas. It's going to be a hostile environment, and Baylor does not want to start the year 0-2. Maybe Utah, which is one of the favorites to win the Pac-12, and they have a dominating defense. Cam Rising is a very good quarterback. We just don't know if he's going to play. That's why I'm putting Utah on upset alert. And the number 1 team that is on upset alert for week 2 in college football, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish taking on NC State. Notre Dame is ranked 10th. They travel to Raleigh, North Carolina to take on the NC State Wolfpack, which is going to be a hostile environment. No, NC State does not have Devin Leary anymore. He's over at Kentucky. But Notre Dame could be on upset alert. He's one of these games where you don't want to play down to your competition. Notre Dame still has Ohio State on the schedule. They still have Clemson. They still have USC. I believe they're going to win, but this is a very tough matchup against an NC State team that we don't really know how good NC State is. Those are my 5 teams that are on upset alert. Why don't we go ahead and take a break? We're going to go pay some bills. And when we come back, I'm going to have my high school football preview review show. You don't want to go anywhere. It's a Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. We'll be right back. And we're back here on the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And you are listening to us on Home of Southern Sports, WQEE 99.1 FM, the key out of Noonan, Georgia. And it is week 4 in high school football. Such a great atmosphere last night at Kinnett Stadium as Thrift Behringer and I had the privilege to call the Thursday night high school football showcase for Georgia Alabama Sports Live on their Facebook page and YouTube channel. So while you're at it, go and like the Georgia Alabama Sports Live's Facebook page and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's where you'll find all of our games. Last night, the Northside Patriots, even though they were only up 14-0 at the half, they defeat the Shaw Raiders 33-7. And Shaw was down, their quarterback, Nicholas Bates. He left the Harris County game. But Arvin Grant came in. He threw some passes. There were some that Timothy Hill, he almost caught that one. That it was wide open. That was a great play call by Coach Garner. And Shaw did score a touchdown. Arvin Grant did throw a touchdown pass. And Shaw played with the Northside Patriots. And Sidney Atkins, I mean, what can you say? He is a ball hawk on defense. He stripped a fumble. He recovered a fumble. He's the reason why Shaw was in this game. He also had a big kickoff return. But the Northside Patriots, they were moving the ball up and down the field on the Shaw Raiders. And it's because their quarterback, Caden Clay, is one of the best here in the Chattahoochee Valley. He's got 9 touchdown passes on the season. And Osborne, whether it was Brown, Kingston Rivers, the running back, Jai Jackson, the other running back who's a sophomore, Kingston Rivers is a junior. They carry the workload in the ground game. And it's really complimentary when you have running back by committee. Malachi Hosley graduated. He's now at Penn. And this offensive line just opened up holes for the 2 running backs for the Northside Patriots. And Northside, during their homecoming, they go to 3-1 on the season. They will travel to Americus, Georgia next week to take on Sumter County. Shaw falls to 1-3, but they could ride the ship. They take on Columbus next week at Kinnett Stadium. The week after, they take on Jordan. They can get back to 500. And as they get ready for region play, the Shaw Raiders, a team that went to the playoffs last year, they could start getting some momentum. And hopefully Nicholas Bates can come back from his injury and Shaw can get back to what they want to try to do, because they were competitive in that game against Harris County. A little bit more competitive, especially on the defense, only down 14-0 to Northside at the half. And it was a great game, and we appreciated everybody who watched us on Facebook Live, that watched us on YouTube, and we're only going to grow from here. As Thrift Behringer and I have a vision, and we just love calling sports, and we love the support that we've been getting in the community. Especially a big shout out to Jonathan Bam Rivers, the former host on 95.7 ESPN Radio. He had a radio show with Reggie Reg in 2019 called Sports Unleashed with Bam and Reggie Reg. He is an icon. He's a motivational speaker, the former Shaw Raider who played on the state championship in 2000 under Coach Flowers. His son, Kingston Rivers, had a great game, 2 touchdowns. And Keeson Rivers has really been a big boost in that offense for the Northside Patriots. And Jonathan Bam Rivers was there rooting for his son. We saw him and we wanted to make sure to give him some love on the broadcast as well. And so that was the only game in the Chattahoochee Valley last night. And so we have got a busy slate of games to go over for week 4 here on the High School Football Preview Review Show. So let's get right to it. All right, you voted for it on Twitter. The high school game of the week is Valley and Beauregard. The Valley Rams 1-1 after defeating Lynette 41-14 last week, taking on the Beauregard Hornets, who are 2-0 on the season. Beauregard made the playoffs last year, had double-digit wins. And look, Beauregard, this is a region game, 2 5A schools that are outstanding. I think that Valley has got some skill players. Cam Dooley, a great quarterback. Jay Harper, one of the top cornerbacks in Alabama. I think that the Valley Rams could get the upset against the Beauregard Hornets. But it should be a fantastic game, and I cannot wait. The game that Thrift Behringer and I will be at tonight, it is the Friday night high school football showcase for Georgia Alabama Sports Live. The Calvary Christian Knights, 2-1 on the season, traveling up to Woodbury, Georgia to take on the Flint River Academy Wildcats out of the GIAA Division I. And this is going to be an incredible atmosphere. Woodbury is a small town with about 1,000 people, and that stadium is going to shine bright. It is that small town feel of high school football. And Flint River, they're 2-0 on the season. This is going to be just an incredible matchup. You can catch this game 7:30, the kickoff, but we are going to be live for high school game day. We're going to have a guest picker, and we're going to break down all the games that are happening in week 4. And then we will have the broadcast at 7:30 tonight on Georgia Alabama Sports Live's Facebook page and YouTube channel. You should check it out. It's going to be absolutely great. Coach Brunson, after Calvary started 2-0, they did lose to the Keens Ridge Christian last week to go to 2-1 as they're trying to bounce back and get the victory on the road. It's only an hour away. I expect a lot of the Calvary Christian fans to make that trip, and we are happy to broadcast this game. Flint River Academy is part of the Chattahoochee Valley, and every now and then we have a very unique situation where we can go to a small town, and I love how high school football is in small towns where the entire town shuts down and they're at the football stadium. We're hoping to be at Schley County. There's going to be some other opportunities where we can get that small town feel for high school football. We kind of have it at Harris County, but Harris County is pretty close to Columbus. It's about 30 minutes away. But I'm talking like a small town, like Ellaville, Georgia, where we have Schley County. All right, going over week 4, as I got the list right here. First of all, we do have some teams that are on buys this week. I'm going to start with the buys. You got Spencer, Troup County, Taylor County, Stars Mill, and Whitewater. And Trinity Christian, all on buys this week. All right. The first game, Otis Spencer Stadium tonight, Northeast. They are taking on the Carver Tigers. Carver, fresh off their bye. They're 2-0 on the season. Deontay Childs, he's already got 4 touchdowns on the season. Matthew Mungden, he's the starting quarterback for the Carver Tigers. Carver Tigers taking over for Novell Dean, who went on to graduate. And head coach Pierre Coffey has got a team that went to the quarterfinals last year. The Carver Tigers did lose some senior leadership, but they're the type of team that plugs and plays. And only playing 3 quarters 2 weeks ago, they are anxious to not only get this game in, but to avenge that loss. When they went to Macon last year, they got blown out by Northeast. So this is going to be a big game at Otis Spencer Stadium. And it's also going to be one of our high school football picks for the high school game day show that Thrift Behringer and I are going to do at 6 o'clock tonight. You can catch that on Georgia Alabama Sports Live's Facebook page. All right, the Howard Huskies from Macon are making the trip to the county Danny Durham Field Tiger Stadium as the Harris County Tigers, 2-1 on the season. They have matched their win total from last year, trying to look for the victory over the Howard Huskies, who are 2-0 on the season. So this is going to be a pretty good matchup. We know that Rick Beach from Kutsu Sports is going to be all over this game, probably going to be giving a score update. So a big shout out to Rick Beach of Kutsu Sports. When you think of Harris County Athletics, you think of Rick Beach, and he has been just a great guest on the Scoreboard Show for Georgia Alabama Sports Live, and he was my broadcast partner for that Russell County, Harris County game. So he has really been knowledgeable for Harris County, and we really look forward to hearing from him later this evening. Speaking of Russell County, they had a bye last week. They are back for their home opener at the county. Corbett Stadium, Mitchell Field, taking on Stanhope Elmore, the Mustangs. Russell County went to Stanhope Elmore last year, and they ended up getting the loss. They are trying to even their record. It's their first region game. Head coach Dylan Griggs in his third season, and they got just a great team. Robert Calhoun, he's the leader, the quarterback, the senior leader in his third season as the starting quarterback. I followed Russell County. This is my third year following Russell County. And, they plug and play. Great players. Coach Griggs is really building up a program. They went 6-4 in his first season. Last year, they dropped down a little bit, 3-7. They did have a lot of injuries. But the Russell County Warriors, they are looking good. And that game against Harris County 2 weeks ago could have went either way. They played Harris County tough. They're looking to bounce back and get the victory. All right, Callaway at Heard County, the Pulpwood Classic. Callaway trying to bounce back from their loss to Troup County last week. This is a rivalry game. You have Heard County, the Heard County Braves. They made the transition last year, went to Division 1A, Class 1A Division 1, and Heard County right now 0-2. They would love to get their first victory of the season against the Callaway Cavaliers and Coach Wiggins and Deshaun Coleman. What can you say about what he has done for the Callaway Cavaliers as they get into their region play? I expect the Callaway Cavaliers to once again compete for a region title and make a deep run in the playoffs like they do just about every year. They made it to the quarterfinals last year. The year before, they made it to the semifinals, and y'all know what happened in 2020. Callaway won their first state title in school history. You got the Glenwood Gators. We had the Glenwood Gators coaches show on Tuesday. They got the big win over Fort Dale Academy, 35-7. Well, Glenwood is taking on Bessemer Academy, which is about 3 hours away from the campus of Glenwood. Glenwood trying to go to 4-0 because they have a massive matchup next week at the Swamp, taking on Lee Scott Academy, which is going to be the rematch of the AISA Championship that took place in Montgomery last year. Speaking of Lee Scott, they are taking on Morgan Academy. Lee Scott is 2-0 on the season. They had a very close win against Chambers Academy, 14-7, but then they got a huge win last week over Bessemer Academy, 51-0. So Lee Scott trying to get back to get to 3-0, getting prepared for Glenwood next week. You got St. Anne Pacelli. Pacelli's on a 2-game winning streak. They are on the road taking on Mount DeSales Academy. And so the Pacelli Vikings are looking good so far under head coach Dwight Jones. The Hardaway Hawks, 0-3. They have had one of the most brutal schedules I've ever seen, and it doesn't get any easier. They play Carver. They play Troup County. They play Northside. They're traveling up to Noonan, Georgia to take on the 6A Noonan Cougars. And then Hardaway's got to take on Harris County and Peach County before they get into region play. You can't ask for a more tougher non-region schedule for the Hardaway Hawks and first-year head coach Ryan McKenzie. And I really like to see the development of freshman quarterback Bobby Gary, as we are going to get to see Hardaway this year on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I'm teasing it. It is going to happen October 19th. We will be broadcasting Hardaway and Shaw, as that is a big region game as well. The Jordan Red Jackets, they are on the road, their first region contest, as they are taking on one of the top teams in their region, Ace Charter, the Griffins. The Ace Charter Griffins are 3-0 on the season. And then we got a massive game. 2-0 teams, the Central Red Devils taking on the Enterprise Wildcats on the road. Enterprise with a big upset win over Auburn last week, 17-16. Central blew the doors out of Smith Station 51-0 and in the backyard brawl. And Andrew Alford, 10 touchdowns on the season. He is looking great. Central trying to get a big road victory. Central is ranked number 2 in the Alabama Writers Association. The Enterprise Wildcats are ranked number 3. This is going to be an epic top 3 showdown between two talented 7A schools. Smith Station, they're on the road against Prattville. Smith Station 0-2 as head coach Bryant Harrison in his first year trying to get his first victory. They're taking on the Prattville Lions team that they beat last year in Smith Station. It was an upset win. I was on the call for CTV Beam and the CW Jabama, and that was one of the great moments in my broadcasting career, and it was great for the Smith Station program to finally beat Prattville, and it was great. And so Prattville's trying to avenge that loss, but Smith Station, they could have some other plans and maybe get a victory on the road. The Auburn Tigers, they are 1-1, and they are traveling down to Dothan, Alabama to take on the Dothan Wolves, who are 2-0. Dothan was the surprise team last year, making the playoffs. They did lose to Auburn in the playoffs. They knocked off Foley in the first round, and then they lost to Auburn in the second round. So a big shout out to the Dothan Wolves and Philip Jordan, who is a regular guest on this show. He works at 96.9 The Legend, working the board operator, and he's the producer of that show and the coach's show, and just getting everything ready for the Dothan Wolves this season. And they're going to be welcoming Coach Etheridge and the Auburn Tigers. You got Percy Julian, the former Robert E. Lee, taking on the Opelika Bulldogs at Bulldog Stadium in Opelika, Alabama. Opelika 1-1 on the season after losing to Thompson in the first game. They went down and they defeated Jag on a Thursday night, so they have an extra day to prepare for this one against Percy Julian. The LaGrange Grangers, they were on a bye last week, traveling to Upson Lee to take on Upson Lee, who is 3-0. We have Sachs taking on Beulah. The Beulah Bobcats had a very close contest last week as they lost to the Lochapoka Indians 14-12. Speaking of the Lochapoka Indians, the Poka Way is still working. A big shout out to Jack Patterson at WRBL for that catchphrase on Lochapoka. You know, last year, head coach Rico Newton pretty much came out and said it's state title or bust. Yes, they did get a win in the first round of the playoffs last year. They did lose in the second round. They lost J.C. Hart to Auburn, and the Lochapoka Indians want to continue being a dominant team, 2-0 on the season, taking on Verbena. And the Lochapoka Indians, the Poka Way, it's still working. All right, Lamar County, they are on the road taking on the Manchester Blue Devils. Manchester, oh man, after the 54-3 win over Columbus, they were able to have a bye and rest some of their players. Manchester, they're getting ready to take on Lamar County. Chatco, trying to get their first win of the season. They are going to take on the 4A school out of the Metro Atlanta area, North Clayton. You got Marion County, 2-0 on the season, as they are taking on Hawkinsville on the road. Schley County is on the road against Blakely County. Schley County is 2-0. and they are the top-ranked team in Division 1A. Class 1A Division 2. Schley County is one of the favorites to not only go back to the state championship, but to win it all. Jalewis Solomon, a great wide receiver. He is the verbal commit to Auburn. And then Twiggs County is taking on Central of Talbotton later today. We got Jacksonville taking on the Handley Tigers. Handley is 2-0 on the season. And then you have the Lafayette Bulldogs that are hosting Reeltown. The Lafayette Bulldogs are 0-2 as they try to get their first victory. This could be the last season for the Lafayette Bulldogs, as we might have a merger between Lafayette and Valley. Not sure what the new school is going to be called for next school year. And Barber County, fresh off their first win in 10 years, they are on the road to take on Laverne, that is 2-0 on the season. Notasulga is taking on Otaugaville. You have Crisp County, 2-1 on the season, traveling to Americus, Georgia to take on Sumter County, trying to get their first win of the season. They are 0-2. Chambers Academy, they got a tough one. 2-1 on the season, taking on Crenshaw Christian Academy, who is 3-0. And then let's get into the schools out of Noonan, Georgia, because this is a show that is broadcasted on WQEE in Noonan, Georgia. And so you have a massive game. I'm talking this game, 2 undefeated teams, Sandy Creek, the defending 3A champions, going to East Coweta, that's also 3-0. East Coweta won this game last year. Sandy Creek is looking for some revenge. This is the GPB live stream game of the week. If you want to check this out, just go to the GPB website and you can check out this game. Central of Carrollton, 3-0 on the season. They are taking on McIntosh, that's also 3-0 down in Peachtree City. You got Villa Rica, 1-1 on the season, taking on Carrollton. That is 2-1. Mount Zion taking on Heritage. And so that's going to be a big game. Heritage, they lost to Kendrick last week, 14-0. Heritage Hawks trying to get their first win of the season. And then Northgate, the Vikings, traveling down to Griffin to take on the Griffin Bears, trying to get their first win of the season. Griffin is 0-3. So, yeah, we've flown by the schedule in Alabama and Georgia. Why don't we go ahead and take a break? When we come back, I'm going to have my top ranked teams from East Alabama and top teams from West Georgia. You don't go anywhere. Please do not go anywhere. This is the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. We are live on Facebook Live and on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge on Facebook and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just give us a 5-star review also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be right back. All right. Final segment of the show. This is the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, and you are listening to us on WQEE 99.1 FM The Key. And this is presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Thrift Behringer and I will be at Flint River Academy later tonight. Kickoff at 7:30. The Calvary Christian Knights taking on the Flint River Academy Wildcats. It should be a lot of fun, and I cannot wait. All right. It's time to reveal my top 10 teams from East Alabama and West Georgia. And like every top 10 that people do, and I'm a big top 10 guy. I was starting to do top 10s when I was doing the Up All Night show with Brad Page in my early days at Freed-Hardeman University. We had fun with it. We had top 10s, and it was really cool. The one thing about top 10s, it is hard to rank these teams because you got a team like Glenwood in the AISA, and you have Central, a team in 7A. The way I rank my top 10 teams is I choose the team that I feel has the best path to the state championship. We're going to start with East Alabama. My number one team, the Central Red Devils. I'm starting with Central because they are 2-0 on the season. Andrew Alford, he's got 10 touchdown passes. I think Central is the biggest threat to the 4-time champion Thompson Warriors. I got Central at number 1. Number 2, the Glenwood Gators, 3-0 on the season. Dallas Crow is looking good. Carter Judah, great running back. Camden White, this 1-2 punch. Coach Nelson's got a great bunch as they get ready for Bessemer Academy. And then number 3, Lee Scott Academy. Boy, it's going to be an epic showdown next week between these two rivals in the AISA. Lee Scott, head coach Buster Daniels, got a 2-0 program that's playing Morgan Academy. And then number 4, the Auburn Tigers. I don't penalize Auburn for losing a game to a top 5 school. Auburn is still great. Auburn is 1-1, but they could ride the ship if they get a big road victory over the Dothan Wolves. Number 5, the Beauregard Hornets, 2-0 on the season. The blueprint is working down in Beauregard, but they got a big one against the Valley Rams. And so hopefully Beauregard can still chug away. Number 6, the Lochapoka Indians, 2-0 on the season. Lochapoka head coach Rico Newton has got a pretty good team. And then we got number 7, the Opelika Bulldogs, 1-1 on the season. They are taking on Percy Julian. Remember, Opelika went 5-5 last year. But Roman Gagliano is a 3-year starter for head coach Eric Speakman. The Opelika Bulldogs, remember, they just lost to Thompson. That was their one loss. And so Opelika will be fine. Number 8, the Handley Tigers. They are 2-0 on the season. Handley, just on the outskirts of the Chattahoochee Valley, but we want to try to give them some love. Number 9, the Valley Rams. The Valley Rams did lose to Handley, but they did bounce back and defeated Lynette last week. They won 41-14, but they got a big showdown with the Beauregard Hornets. And then finally, number 10, I'm just going to put them in here because I like what they have done. The Eufaula Tigers. They are in the Chattahoochee Valley. Eufaula's got a great coach, Timmy Jernigan. He is a Super Bowl winning coach. Did I get that name right? No, Jarrell Jernigan, the former New York Giant that won that Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. I like what Eufaula does. Eufaula went down to 5A. Still, it's a tough road, but Copeland Cotton, a very good quarterback, and I think Eufaula is going to have a great season. That's my top 10 for East Alabama. Now let's move over to West Georgia. I'm going to start with the number 1 team because this team, even though they're 1A, this team has the best path to win the state title. I'm talking about the Schley County Wildcats. They are number 1, 2-0 on the season, taking on Early County. You know, they bounced back and they beat Tatnall Square Academy, a team they lost to last year. Anytime you can match the losses that you had last year and you match it with a win, you can only improve, and they're only going to get better. I think the Schley County Wildcats, Thrift and I are hoping to do a game there in a couple of weeks. That is a spot where we would love to do a game down in Ellaville, Georgia. Number 2, the Troup County Tigers, 3-0 on the season. They got the big win over Callaway. Teo Todd, all-world quarterback. He's going to Georgia Southern. Troup County is on a bye this week. Then they get into region play, and it gets very interesting for Coach Glisson and the Troup County Tigers. Number 3, the Carver Tigers. Carver's 2-0. They are taking on Northeast. I think Carver should handle their business as they get ready to take on some tough opponents. They got to take on Brookwood, a 7A school. Of course, their region with Thomasville, Crisp County, they got some tough opponents in their region as well. Number 4, the Callaway Cavaliers. I do not penalize them for losing to a very good Troup County team. Callaway, Coach Wiggins, 1-1, taking on Hurt County in the Pulpwood Classic. Number 5, the LaGrange Grangers. What I saw against Northside, they took on a very tough 3A school in Carver, Atlanta. They're 1-1. This is going to be a big road trip. Take it on Upson Lee. That's 3-0. So let's see how the LaGrange Grangers do against them. And so you have Sly County, number 1. You have Troup County, number 2. Carver, number 3. Callaway, number 4. LaGrange, number 5. Okay. Number 6, the Northside Patriots. 3-1 on the season. Northside with a big win over Shaw, 33-7 last night, taking on Sumter County on the road next week. And so number 7, the Manchester Blue Devils, 2-0. I actually want to put Manchester up in these rankings because I think Manchester has a pretty good path to the state title. They do have to play Schley County. They do have a very tough schedule, but Manchester beating Bowden to start the year, and then turned around and beating a 3A school in Columbus, 54-3. I like where Manchester's going. And it'll be very interesting to see if Manchester makes it higher up my rankings. All right, so the next team on this list at number 8, I'm putting Upson Lee in my rankings for the first time. Upson Lee is 3-0. Upson Lee is part of the Chattahoochee Valley. This is also a school out of Thomaston. Trayvon Walker played at Upson Lee, and they're going to be very battle-tested against the LaGrange Grangers. I mean, this is going to be a big game for Upson Lee, but I got Upson Lee at number 8 because I wanted to make sure to include them here in the list. Number 9, the Spencer Green Wave. Even though they're 1-2, they lost to Carver, they lost to Westover. I still think the Spencer is a very talented team. Gary Gaither, great quarterback, and I think that Spencer is going to do well. And then new to my list, I don't think that this team has ever made my rankings, even the ones of last year. Marion County, 2-0 on the season. Marion County having a great year so far. They make my list, and just the way this season is playing out, if you didn't make my list, I'll try to get you in if you have a good performance this week. This is the one thing of my show that I did last year. It was a very popular segment of my show last year. I get a lot of criticism from coaches, players that reach out to me on social media and ask, why didn't you put us higher? Look, I'm a journalist. I'm a sports broadcaster. I'm known for hot sports takes. This is what I do. I love doing this list, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't think you're a bad team. I think that there's a lot of great teams out there, and it is hard to pick the top 10 for East Alabama and the top 10 for West Georgia. All right, that's it. That's my show. I want to thank Ryan O'Neill back at the radio station at WQEE for giving me this opportunity. I want to thank Thrift Behringer at Georgia Alabama Sports Live for giving me that opportunity as well. And on a side note, as I had a great broadcast with Thrift Behringer yesterday, I got to be a guest on Sports Visions. It was kind of spur of the moment thing. I was setting up at Kinnett Stadium, and I was excited that DJ Jones and Thrift Behringer brought me on to their show, previewing the upcoming Shaw Northside game. And what really meant a lot to me was when they said I was a part of Sports Visions. That really meant a lot to me, that I was no longer a guest, that I feel like I'm also part of Sports Visions, and I am honored to be part of a great sports talk show in Columbus that you can catch Mondays and Thursdays from 4 to 6 on Smooth R&B 92.1 and the Sports Visions Facebook page. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy all the games this week, and we will talk to you Monday. I'm out of here. Bye, everybody.